John, you got your
Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Real Fit Pros. It's your boy, Jonathan Loudermilk, your host with the most. And I've got, as always, my co-pilot, my partner in crime, Mark, the fitness ninja Zalmanoff. But before I pass the baton off to Mark and he introduces our very special guest, as always, I need you to do something for me. That something is leaving us a review and going ahead and clicking the subscribe button. Right? The reviews help us get this out in front of more fit pros, which we're on a mission to help fit pros get paid what they're worth. Every like counts, every subscription counts. And if you're on Instagram, go ahead and screenshot this, tag us at the Fit Pro Bros, so that once again, we can change more of our brothers and sisters' lives. So with that being said, we'll pass it off to Mark. What's going on, man?
What's happening, brother? Happy to be here as always. It's a nice rainy day in North Texas.
Right? I look tan today because it's dark.
That is a feat for you, sir.
It is.
If you're listening to this, if you don't know, my wife is a snow Mexican and she is super, super pasty white. And the other day she was wearing blue jeans and her hair is like super red. I was like, "You're looking very American, babe." And she just gives me that look like, don't say that to me, because she's Canadian. If you don't know what a snow Mexican is, that's Canadian. Anyway, I was like, "You're very patriotic today with your pasty skin and your blue jeans and your red hair." America. That's right. All right. Our guest today, I'm excited about this one. It's funny. We get to know people online, but we never actually talk to them. And this is yet another guest that John and I have on here that I've never spoken to in person. We've just conversed online. I can already tell he's got a great personality. So he has been a strength and conditioning coach for over 17 years. He has owned Viking Performance Training in Morgantown, West Virginia since 2014, which he opened after a successful 10-year run as a member of the strength and conditioning staff at West Virginia University, where he also taught as a college professor, which is pretty awesome. He's trained athletes that have competed in the Olympics, NFL, NBA, MLB, professional soccer, and more. But his current passion is in the youth and teen demographic, helping them become stronger and more confident to reach their goals. Originally, he's a guy who just got hooked on everything training, which is great. He's a USA powerlifting state chairman for West Virginia. And despite being in the weight room for over 25 years, he never loses his roots as a metalhead, a D&D playing nerd, which is amazing, and a guy who drinks coffee all day. And we've already seen him take 47 sips of coffee in the 5 seconds we've been on this. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Handley, happy to have you with us, Jerry.
I'm stoked to be here, man. I'm glad I'm already making that good first impression. And this right here has been my secret for years. The hot-cold combination of the energy drink followed immediately by the drink of coffee.
Yeah, Jerry just held up a high-powered energy drink and coffee, so he is fired up.
I teach 8-hour lectures.
So, Jerry, as you know, we always kick this thing off with story time. So it's 17 years of experience. I'm sure you got some good ones in there. So what do you have for us?
I feel like it's all stories, and I had 2 different directions I was thinking about going with this, but in the end, I knew to get the best story out there, make it entertaining. I could only choose one. After a while, I feel like we feel like we've seen it all in weight rooms or training with clients, different ages. I had one of those starts where I feel like I'd seen things people hadn't seen in my first year. It was just like, it just exploded. It just, when I started working. So this is actually a story from my WVU days, early in my WVU college coaching career. So, I was only like 21, 22 years old, and I had a lot of female athletes, like I still do. And I remember one of them, the first team that I was ever in charge of, one of the athletes came in, couldn't do most of the workout, said she'd hurt her back in the last workout. And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure you didn't. It's like, I was here too, and I'm pretty positive you didn't, which is a phantom thing I've noticed over the years, the injured in the weight room when you didn't see anything or weren't told of anything like that. But, well, it only took me about 30 minutes to find out that her injury had actually occurred at the bar over the weekend, and she'd met a guy and they didn't want to wait. So they just went to the sink in the bathroom and just went after it there. And yeah, she hurt her back her back was out for like 6 months. And then this guy was actually a student in athletic training. So he was technically the ones like, helping them stay safe and injured. And this happened. And yeah, so actually, over my 10 years at WVU, I had 3 athletes get injured that I found out were from sex. Like, yeah. And at least one more get injured opening the fridge, which is always one there too. So
that'd be an interesting program design to see.
I want to see the marketing campaign behind
when
that.
They come in. Well, it's like it's when they come in, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that what you say happened doesn't happen. I'm like, who's buying this story? It's like, but they don't ever try to tell me and their coach that. They never try to pass that off to their medical trainers. They tell them straight up. They're like, oh yeah, this happened.
That's a tough conversation to have with your strength coach. But like, hey, I gotta be real with you. I was banging this weekend in the bathroom, totally threw my back out. What do you got for me today? And you're like,
yeah, it's like, well, we're going over to leg press now.
Oh, that's great. I love it. All right, Jerry, let's dive into this. I want to start with just talking about your current business, what you do, how you operate, and then we'll kind of backtrack from there as far as what has led to this point.
Absolutely. So Viking Performance Training, we opened 2014, and I tell you from the get-go, it was nothing but learning lessons about opening a business, because I was 100% that type of guy who opens a gym, pure technician, but I also thought, because I'm in the same town that I, for the WVU is at. So I had a very big thought or belief that when I open it, my experience, people are just going to come to me, right? And it didn't, in very fast learning curve, that is not how it works at all. So, our focus is strength and conditioning. And because of, or pretty much naturally, because of the fact that the college is here, I know that like almost any athletes that are in town or college athletes are going to be going to their strength coach at WVU, because they're the only college athletes in town unless they're on break. So automatically the strength and conditioning focus was on high schoolers and middle schoolers. And I didn't have a set age group at first, but I just thought high schoolers would be that main one. And the training is like what we market, what we focus, the main service is it's individualized, sports specific, goal specific. So everybody comes in, gets their own program made. After we have a meeting, we run like a first week assessment where we run them through different movement patterns, find out how they do, so we can then make their exercise a little bit better. And so even when we get athletes who are the same sport, same age, even teammates, unless they specifically said, hey, we want to work out together, then they'll get at least varied programs, if not completely different programs, like built for their own. And most of that's built on a semi-private model, which for us is not necessarily put them in small groups. Like I know it is in a lot of places. For us, it just means like high functioning, open flowing weight room. Like the coaching is more open floor style. So that's 70-80% of our clients are in that semi-private model. So they get the individualized coaching program, and then the coaches help them through it, but they're not taking them one-on-one or anything like that. The coaches are walking the floor, helping everybody through their workout back and forth. So, and then, but go ahead.
I was going to ask you to dive deeper into the open floor coaching. Like what does that mean specifically?
Yeah. Okay. So we're literally shaped like a rectangle, for example. Like we don't have different rooms. We don't have compartments. There's just, we're like a big rectangle gym and good amount of open space, but there's like a platform area, a heavier rack and bench area, like dumbbells, kettlebells area, stretching medicine ball area with a little bit of cardio equipment, and then like a strongman equipment area too. But it's one of those things too, where in one corner, I could technically look all the way on the other side of the gym and still see what's going on. So what we do is, as I said, like it pretty much took it from what we would do in my years at college, when there was something called open gym. That was when all the athletes who couldn't make their team workouts, that's when they were supposed to come in. So if they, they had a class conflict, couldn't make it, then they would have like, say, 2 different choices of open gym to come to and get their workout in. So most of our time back then would be, okay, this is soccer workout hour, this is track, whatever. But there might be 2 hours where you had like 3 wrestlers, 2 cross country girls, a soccer guy, rifle, just whatever, doing different workouts. So it's set up a lot like that, where so we have all the like athletes come in, our clients in general, like I said, like 70% are athletes. They come in on their own schedule, get their own program, do their own workout, while the coaches will basically be hovering almost around the areas that are getting the most use. Make sure every client starts off correctly, is doing things correctly, goes and checks with somebody else. So it's like the coaches are constantly checking in with each of the different clients and coaching their workout rather than taking everybody through the same one.
Cool.
I like it.
It's just what feels more natural to me. I don't know if it's because of the experience or just how my particular brain works, but.
Well, it makes sense from the background and the demographic, right? And what you're doing. And then Mark, I'd like for you to expound, man. You run actually not the exact same model, but a pretty similar one for your gym. That's been really fascinating to watch you grow over the last couple of years.
Yeah, like everything I do is in group settings, and some of the groups are doing the same thing as other people. Some of them are just individuals doing their own personally programmed thing. And like you said, I can stand in one spot and see everyone at all times, so I know what's going on. And I like the energy of that. And what I've really found over the years is that most people don't need private one-on-one coaching. They may need individualized programming, which is great, but they don't need one person hovering over them the whole time. And when you get a lot of people in a room all working, that energy, you can feel it, and everyone works a little bit harder and they don't even know why. Do you see the same thing?
Spot on, man. No, that's exactly it. That's exactly what we see. And yeah, like the energy and like, because here it's all, everybody's schedules individually as well. And we don't have like a set start time, end time. It's like, so like they schedule so we know when they're coming, and, we make sure they're accountable to showing up. But other than that, they can schedule whenever they want to. So, their sport changes, their sport schedule changes, parents who bring them here, whatever. So every day we'll have clients who work out around the same type of people most of the time, but then it's also like in the end, it's a different mix every day. So they're constantly getting around slightly different people. And so we'll have, middle school athletes, high school athletes, maybe 1 or 2 of their moms with like, just another, like a power lifter over there, and maybe like a pro strongman, like all at once.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, so like the energy's up there. They're all supportive. Like they all like each other. They all like seeing each other work, So like when a middle schooler sees, like a high school junior who just got a college scholarship offer, in his same sport, he gets pumped up because he feels like he's kind of part of that or has that chance. Or then when like these kids or these moms, either side of it, like a kid or a mom just trying to get fitter, has like a strongman competitor, cheering them on when they're doing like prowler sled pushes, then they're like, oh, like, okay, this is awesome. They get that boost. And yeah, like the energy is by far that biggest one. And like, just like you said, we have a few one-on-one clients, but that's, in our case, that's because you have a very specific problem or goal that we're trying to solve, and that's the only way we're going to do it. Like otherwise, like you said, it's a personalized program, but otherwise the open coaching, keep the energy up, keep motivated, go from there.
I love it.
Man, group training has changed so much.
I know, right?
In just my career span. Like this is mind blowing to me. Like, and Mark, I got introduced to it through you, but then hearing it from Jerry, it's been cool to watch the evolution of this, because this was definitely not how things were ran, like even like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, and I think it's important that coaches that are listening to this, Jerry, I sense it in you. I did the same thing of like just kind of leaning into what you saw working and then double down on it. And I think so many coaches get stuck in thinking that it can only be this way, or it's only going to work this way, or I have to do one-on-ones because I can charge $100 an hour or whatever, where they're not thinking clearly. It's like, well, but I could have 10 people in the gym at one time and charge them 2/3 of that rate or 1/3 of the rate or whatever, and still be more profitable in the long run. And you get to change more lives along the way.
Exactly. That actually reminded me, like, from the beginning, like, well, from when I started, and this actually reminded me from before we started recording, what I had with Jonathan in common was I was one of these kids growing up who the whole time I was going through schools, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to med school. That's what it was. My parents were like, oh, you'll probably go to be like, you're smart, you get good grades, you'll do this. And then by the time I graduated high school, I had just been kind of hospitaled out already by that point. But by that point, the training bug had bit me. And I was like, okay, I want to do something involving training. So I knew that part. But I didn't know I didn't even know strength and conditioning was a thing. Like, I just assumed it was all personal training, and some of them just happened to work with athletes. And in the end, it's kind of still what it is, because it's semantics, really. I mean, you guys know, like, there's certifications. There are the ones that are bullshit, and the ones that at least give you some minimal amount of knowledge in the field. But there's no bar exam, there's no MCAT, like, there's literally, like, when I was stopping at Circle K's gas station to get this energy drink 40 minutes ago, anybody in there could walk out of that building and say, you know what, I'm going to start being a personal trainer today. So it's like, so you go in there and like you said, you pretty much see what works and what you can actually build to it. But so getting the education was part of it, but I didn't know that I could actually, like, the strength and conditioning was a thing.
So let's talk about that. When I was so I have a degree in kinesiology, and that your senior year, is when everybody starts to kind of, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to go teach? Are you going to go coach? Are you going to be a trainer? And, that strength and conditioning spot used to be, and I don't know if it still is, it's very coveted, especially in the professional sports world, because there's so few of them. I went and got my CSCS from NSCA, which to this day is still the hardest fucking test I've ever taken in my life.
Oh yeah, it's brutal.
Yep. But then it's like, okay, well, what do you do with that? And you were fortunate enough to land a spot at a university doing strength and conditioning. So how did you end up in that space?
Yeah, I got really lucky. Well, preparation type thing, but also with my timing lucky, especially compared to a lot of the normal path of a strength coach, kind of like you're saying. I started with an internship. That was the first thing for me, which, I like, to this day, interns that come to me looking for because they actually want to help and not necessarily because it's a class experience, are almost always better, just at least at the beginning, automatically. Like, they're like, I want to do this because I'm interested, or I want to help, or want to just do something to help. So it started with an internship for me in the program. And then, so that first one was actually this is for class credit. I need this to graduate. And like my undergrad was exercise physiology. But then, so I was going to pursue master's in my master's in the same program, but I wanted to keep getting that experience and keep helping. So then I entered volunteering. And then actually after a full year of internship and volunteering, the strength and conditioning director, who became my eventual first boss, hit the point where, well, he didn't hit a point, but he had somebody from the Pittsburgh Pirates organization come into play and say, hey, we're looking for a minor league strength and conditioning coordinator. Do you have anybody you'd like to suggest? And he gave my name. I had my interview with that, got the position. So I actually took a leave of absence and was sitting around waiting for spring training when I got another phone call from my boss. I'll just call him my boss. And he said, hey, we actually opened up a grad assistant. So even though you're going to go do that, would you be interested in this position instead? So nice. Turned around, had basically an interview without realizing I was having an interview over the phone. And next thing I knew, got in that position. Graduated with from the graduate program, and they eventually were able to hire me. And then when it got really rare was, like, staying in one place in strength and conditioning college is a very rare aspect of the model. It doesn't happen very often. Yeah. And there was a point so I started in 04, 05 is when I became graduate assistant. 07 is when I got hired full-time. And then in 08, our head football coach back then, Rich Rodriguez, was left overnight basically to go to Michigan. and completely that turned into a cluster right there. But that was a big thing. So that happened to be the first year that I did not work with football. And because the entire football strength and conditioning staff went with him, including my original boss. So we went from a staff of 10 to 3 overnight. And those next 2 months were 2 of the worst months of my life. I'm not gonna lie, because like the 3 of us ended up running the entire athletic program at WVU from strength and conditioning for 2 months before they hired anybody else. And then then ended up working under that director of strength and conditioning for 6 more years until deciding to leave the college world. But yeah, so for me, it was putting in that effort and that work, volunteering, putting it like just making a good impression that way. But then also because opportunities opened. Like I unfortunately know a lot of guys who put in work, they do voluntary internships and everything. People will say that they try to get them a spot, but then administration in the end just doesn't approve it, So it's definitely a rough one. So the effort plus the timing was right.
I think there's a lot of pearls in what you just said, Jerry. Like your route of going in and going, what can I do to help and add value first is what created those opportunities. And it's how I started too. Like I did my internship at a Gold's Gym after getting my sports med degree, which is basically work for free for 3 months, doing all the bitch work, which everyone's like, hey, oh yeah, new guy, here you go wipe off the machines. Yes, sir. Right. But that led to them going, hey, we want to keep you on board and here's a bunch of clients, right? As you go through that stuff. So I think there's a lot of wisdom with that, whether you want to go the corporate route and get a job, which there's nothing wrong with that, or the same thing in business. Like if you want to get clients, well, if you help them by actually helping them first, this weird thing happens where you make money.
Well, and I think too, Jerry, that's a testament to you and your work ethic and whatever vibe you're putting out. When college programs implode like that, usually everyone's gone. You obviously you see it all the time. Like you said, the entire coaching staff leaves, almost all the strength and conditioning people leave. So the fact that you were still able to stay on speaks volumes to what you were doing, that somebody somewhere was like, well, shit, we can't lose that guy. Let's at least keep him on payroll for some semblance of similarity and keeping some cohesiveness of the people that are left. Like I said, I mean, to me, it speaks volumes of your character and what you were providing at the time.
I appreciate that. I do a lot, Mark. And yeah, like the cohesiveness, that was the word you used, because I was at one point directly told that, that was one of the biggest things that I was helping with, was that I had the deepest roots with all the coaches that were still there, knew the most athletes, knew the most, like everything from coaches, administrative, everything. And so that actually became my role, and it was perfect for me because I love training variety. Like I said, like from the beginning, that's what got me hooked, was I just like all types of training. So I always liked working with a lot of different sports rather than just one sport all the time. And so I ended up becoming more like an Olympic sports specialist, is what they would call it. In college, Olympic sports are basically everything that isn't football, basketball. I have no idea why they call it that. Basically, sports that usually don't make the program money. Like, yeah. So we had 15 teams, staff of like 8 to 10, and in the end, I was in charge of 5 of the 15 sports.
Wow.
But again, it was just because like it was the spread. It was, at some point in time, I worked with every sport we had, but in the end, it was like women's soccer, rowing, rifle, the throwers from track and field, and I would occasionally help with wrestling. So it was like all around.
So you went out on your own in 2014, correct?
Right. Yep.
So what was the catalyst that you were like, all right, it's time to go do this. I want to go run my own show.
There were 2 of them. Like one was just the college landscape is brutal because, like I said, stayed there that long, but it had hit the point too where even like I had the roots and was helping the cohesiveness. I did not get particularly like get along particularly well with my newer boss. But it was one of those things where it was okay for a long time because I got to do my own thing. You know, it was like stay that way, do what I like to do, keep promises to my athletes or my coaches. But other than that, we didn't like it. You could tell that there was a little bit of like black sheepness going on. And eventually at that point, it was like I was not going to get it, like go up or anything where I was. So it was either just leave and, you know, finally do the university hopping thing like so many coaches do, or just try to do my own thing. So I decided like I didn't have a particular pull anywhere, didn't want to just enter the same situation, possibly enter a similar situation where, because what makes college so weird, and I know you guys will understand this as well as a lot of listeners, is it is business at the top. You know, like presidents and athletic directors, they have to run it like a business because they have to get money to supply things for their facilities, for their people to grow. But at some point on the way down, it becomes service based. So, you know, like, and basically that happens at the coaching level. Like the coaches are they're still business oriented, but then everybody underneath the head coach is there more for service. And that difference eventually became like, that gap became so wide that I was like, okay, like I'm just going to leave college altogether, try something else. And it was not like a very long plan that I had. It was sitting at my mom's table, like on a week that I had off, and just going, you know what, like, I think I'm going to make this the last year and just try to open my own thing, and started getting out papers, drawing general ideas. And 12 weeks later we opened. So
I like imperfect action.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Dude, that's awesome. 12 weeks that's fast.
I remember being in the parking lot at you know, to go in to tell my boss that that I was, you know, going to finish after that contract year, resign and everything like that, and like throwing up in the parking lot ahead of time. You know, yeah, I was like, okay, I think it's out of my system now. I can go.
Yeah. You know, I think there's always something to be said for a healthy amount of nervousness when big things are coming. And, you know, in Apex, we talk about the force of average and things that will start making you second guess things and roadblocks and all that. So was there anything, you know, other than the huge learning curve of, oh shit, I'm running a business now and all the people aren't just coming to me? Like, are there any big struggles that stick out to you that you could speak on to those who may be listening in that are like, hey, I want to start my own thing, and 12 weeks from now sounds fucking terrifying. I'm going to go throw up in the parking lot now. So what can you extract from that experience of just diving in head first like that?
Yeah. Man, one of the biggest ones I would say is, if you can grasp the concept, try to at least start things off by working towards a system that's going to make life eventually easier, rather than just going for it. I created tons of bottlenecks for at least, like, so we've been in business 7 years now. I would say at least the first 4 years, I had tons of bottlenecks created for myself, whether it was business wise or my time and my energy, because I would make sure things got done, but I didn't necessarily take any time to actually create it in the system where it could be done smoother. Like anything from just how we kept track of client information, who would come in, and like keep track of payments and due dates. Could be simple stuff like that, to, you know, like marketing or programs like that worked. Like literally anything that, as you do it, try to at least start putting some thought into it. Like, okay, as I create this, how can I start making it into a little bit of a process and organize it so it becomes easier in the future? And of course, you know, hopefully be able to teach, like hand it off to other people relatively well too, so they can help you grow.
Yeah, I think that's huge. That's a huge learning curve for most coaches, whatever environment they're in, whether they're independent and think they don't need to do those things, whether they're running a gym. You know, John and I see it all the time. That's one of the biggest.
I'm just thinking about, like, man, Like, Mark, you should ask me that question tomorrow when I join your podcast. But I think about the evolutions of systems for me. And man, I'll be the first to admit, before I met Renee, my re-sign percentage sucked because I had no process, dude. I was just like, you want to keep going? Yes or no? It was like a 50-50 coin flip. And then I would watch her re-sign like 90% of her clients. I was like, how the fuck are you doing that? She's like, I use a system. I was like, teach me this magical thing called a system that you use. Cause I'm just out here just shooting and gunning, and fortunately that I evolved and I grew from that. But man, that just took me back thinking about like that version of Jonathan that like didn't understand the value of systems and was just running and gunning. And I think we all go through that,
I think so, yeah. But like that's one of those places where, when you hear about business coaching, or like in your guys' last episode, which if you're listening to this, go listen to the last episode. It was awesome. But they talked about, you get that coach and you collapse the timeline. Like if I had like there are even areas where if I could even just collapse a month, like if I could be like, if I just could get rid of that month, that would have been awesome. Let alone collapsing actual years. And like I said, like I'm still trying to figure a lot of them out. I'm still seeing which ones work, especially just against our particular set of, I guess, problems. I'll actually say that's probably one of the next ones is recognize that it's not going to work exactly the way you thought or the way anybody else works. Like everybody deals with the same basic issues, but the actual players in the story, the actual like even like villains, if you will, not that it's necessarily people actually being malicious or evil, although it'd be kind of cool if it was, but make it more fun. It's like, but they're going to be different characters, so you got to figure out how to get through those, and it might change. Like for us, like that's actually one of the biggest surprises is who I thought was going to be when we opened, who I thought was going to be the number one supporters of the business is actually turned out to be the number one enemy of the business. In our case, which is generally speaking, like the public high school coaches, because they have their own system, like they have their own strength and conditioning system in place. Yeah. And it's with it's through the college. What's crazy is I know because I ran it for like 6 years. But again, I thought that was literally like some of the classes those students, like, so they're college students that are training the high school at the high schools, and some of the classes they're taking, like I designed 12 years ago. So I was like, oh, like this will be even better because it'll be like, oh, I can hire, like, lack of a better term, I can hire the master, like who did it. And no, instead it's like, no, like this is our property, like stay here. So here and there, like, that's not all coaches by any means, but just some of them are vocal. Some of them just, as long as their athletes are getting better, that's all they care about. And then we have some who do support us, but as a whole, like that was the biggest thing. But I never saw that coming. Yeah. But it pretty much from almost day one.
Dude, ego's the number one killer of winning. Me and Mark talk a lot about, you can be right or you can be win, but rarely do you get to be both. And it sounds like there's some high school coaches trying to be right and win, and that's not how that works.
Yeah, and like we have a fantastic relationship with a few high schools who are like not in this, ironically not in town, because they don't have that same system. So instead we help them out, we do our service, and they're like, wow, like, yeah, these guys from here are great. This is awesome. Why aren't the others, like, why aren't the schools in Morgantown using you? Like, well, it's like,
well, and again, I think that's a great lesson to everyone listening, that like you just got to show up and do what you do.
Exactly.
And you can't control anything else. You can't control what other people do. You can't control who's going to show up. You have to show up. And when you do, and you do it in an authentic way, and you're genuine, and you do a good job, the right people will always show up and support you. And 9 times out of 10, it won't be a single motherfucker that you thought was going to be there. Exactly. Like we've all experienced that. And as all of us level up and have more influence and have more impact, like we just continually thin the herd. And thankfully it shows you who you can actually trust, because people reveal themselves real quick when you start winning.
Yeah,
And
but
that's just
100,000%, man.
yeah.
And yeah, like you said, like luckily I said like there was an exact moment that my style as a coach exploded to being the type of coach that it is. Like I can actually remember it. And that was it was an exact early morning football workout at WVU. And I remember it was one of those like before early in the morning February sessions when they do it just to pretty much run guys ragged. You know, it's like mental toughness time frame, you know, like it's February and football season's, 6 months away. So it was one of those sessions. And this was actually when Coach Rodriguez was there. He came through and he was just pissed at everybody. He was yelling at like coaches, at players, everybody. And for whatever reason, the station I was in charge of, I just went off. Like I remember, like I just like hit this like new level of energy that I had never been like tapped into before with my coaching. And I remember him coming over and I mean watching, and I was like the one station he didn't yell at, And I remember afterwards, like my boss, who like my mentor, Mike Barwis, like he said, he was like, dude, like you literally saved the day. He's like you're coaching, and like he's like the way you did that, he's like Rod was angry, but he would have been so much angrier if it wasn't for you. And like that moment, and it was just this like deep, like tapping into just that simply wanting to get the most out of everybody who was in my group. And it's like, what can I do to get it? And that's not the same thing for everybody. And, like everybody has their own style. Some coaches, I know trainers and coaches who are super mellow. I know some who are never been my style, but some who are like very militant, that's very common in this profession. Some who are hyper aggressive, but then some are more like that chameleon, or just that, like, that they're like an adaptogen of coaching. You can literally be like whatever, like I'm going to coach a gym. Like I coach my gymnasts the exact same, but from a different point in my personality as I coach a football team when I go work out with them. It's just, like different things get them going. And saying like that authenticity, just being like that. And then the only thing I allow us to focus on as a business is on what we're doing. Like my coaches, my team members here, they know they're not allowed to tell me what any other gym is doing. Like, I don't want to know. It's like, I don't want to know what any other person around here is doing. Cause I know that if I hear it, even though I want to ignore it, it will irk me a little bit too. It'll like distract me, bother me a little bit. So I'm like, I don't want to know about it at all, because it has nothing to do with us. It took me years to learn that part.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't affect you running your race.
Exactly.
So I agree.
That's great. All right, Jerry. So as we start to wrap this up, I got one more question before we get to the fun questions. So 17 years, like I said, that's a long ass time for anybody in any profession, much less in ours. Like, I worked at Lifetime Fitness 16 years ago. We had a staff of 40, and I think 3 of them are still in business, in the industry right now. And that's including me. So what would you contribute your staying power in the industry to?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's like, I just like watching people develop. That's the biggest. I love watching people develop, and it just so happens that physical movement has been my tool to get that message across. I said, because it kind of. I'm in the minority, I'm pretty sure, of people who work strength conditioning, not just now, but in college, who I never played a sport like in college or high school. Like I got into it from training. Like I played baseball when I was little. Martial arts and MMA, like well before it exploded to what it is now, were like my own personal catalyst to take training more seriously when I was in high school. But I think that was it. Is like I developed that early deep interest then, so it just became like my language to try to keep communicating with people and help them develop.
I love it. Serving the world, baby.
Yep.
Man, it's amazing what happens when you just tap into that and go with it too, and not chase shit that doesn't align. And
Well,
I love it.
Jerry, I think you just gave yourself permission to do what you're good at. And then you figured out how to get paid what you want from it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome, man. All right, let's do some fun questions.
Ooh, I like these.
The other questions were fun, but just fun too. All right, if you could work out with any person that's living right now, who would it be?
Ooh, it's funny. The first person I thought about was somebody dead.
He's like, I'd whoop their ass, dead ass.
But I know the man already, but I would freaking love to work out with him sometime. Ray Williams, like he's a class act. Like he's worked out here at the gym, but I just freaking love that dude. And we're actually working out with him would be fun as hell.
That guy's a monster of a human being.
Side note, my dead one was Teddy Roosevelt.
Nice. My answer is Scarlett Johansson, for the record. Just saying.
Mine's any of the CrossFit girls.
Any of the daughters.
They would all kick my ass.
Any of them.
Love it. All right, next question. What's your favorite type of weather?
I love snow, which is like I love blizzards and snow. And I'm half Puerto Rican. I'm probably the only Puerto Rican that will give you that answer. But yeah, give me cold weather, snow. The first snowfall in West Virginia or here, like I always do an outdoor workout in like just a kilt or something and take an ice bath.
I'm gonna be looking for that one.
Right?
That's social media gold right
Keep
there.
my eye on the weather report now. I'm like, oh, hey Jerry, it's snowing.
All right, last question, sir. If you could have a billboard and you could put a message on it for everyone to see, what would be on the billboard?
Don't ask yourself why you should do things. Ask yourself why not. If you're really interested in it, just go for it.
Hell yeah.
I
like that.
Way better than why.
Right?
I like that a lot. Everybody's always searching for their why. Just go do some shit.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's great, man. Such a pleasure talking to you. So thankful for you to be on here. We'll put all your links in the show notes for people to follow you. Any parting words, sir?
Not really, man. It's just a great time. Like I love this community in general, like fitness pros as a whole. I mean, people who are like in it for all the right reasons. I'm thankful for Apex for getting, to meet you guys and talking with that, and looking forward to meet you guys in person. And really just love continue expanding the network with people who are still in this, whether it's athletes or just people in general, to build more confidence and improve their lives with fitness.
Yeah, I love it. One of the reasons that Jon and I have partnered up is to keep good coaches in this industry. So guys like you are definitely rare in our field, and we appreciate what you do. We appreciate you sharing your time with us. So follow this guy, folks. Like I said, we'll put all the stuff in the show notes. And hey, Jon, you got something for the people?
This is the best part of the show. You know why this is why you tune in. Be like Jerry and go get what you're worth, damn it. Yeah. Damn good show. Damn good.
Damn.